Number 8. David Bonola. On April the 16th of 2022, human remains were found stuffed in a hockey bag on the side of the road in the Forest Hills neighborhood of Queens, New York City. Investigators followed up on a blood trail, and the victim was identified as Hungarian national Orsolia Gal, a 51-year-old mother of 2. The lack of forced entry into her home led law enforcement to believe that Gal knew her killer. A note on her refrigerator read, "Get a new handyman," and it proved vital in the police eventually identifying the suspect as 44-year-old David Bonola. He and the married woman had had an on-again, off-again affair, lasting for about 2 years. During that time, Bonola, a Mexican immigrant living in the US illegally, had done handiwork around Gal's home. 4 days after the woman's brutal murder, the police stopped Bonola near the crime scene and took him into custody. Upon speaking to detectives, he reportedly made several incriminating statements before eventually giving a confession. Bonola told law enforcement that Gal had been seeing other men and that he felt she'd used him. He also reported that he wanted payback as he thought she'd given him HIV. As an argument about the end of their relationship escalated, Gal asked him to leave, but he refused, at which point she allegedly threatened him with a knife. Bonola took the knife from her, slashed her throat, and inflicted close to 60 other wounds. He then placed her lifeless body in her son's duffel bag and abandoned it in the neighborhood. Less than a mile from her home, he was charged with second-degree murder, burglary, concealment of a human corpse, and tampering with physical evidence. Number 7. Elizabeth Lena James. On August the 15th of 2018, law enforcement in Lawrence, South Carolina, responded to reports of animal cruelty at a property on Lisbon Road. They arrived to find a mastiff mix named Champ, who was severely emaciated and covered in maggots, at the home of 30-year-old Elizabeth Lena James. The dog was roughly 60 pounds underweight and too weak to stand on his own. He'd belonged to James's ex-boyfriend, following the breakup in a twisted act of revenge. James kept Champ chained up and for months refused to feed him, even though she kept giving food to her own dogs. The woman was arrested for animal cruelty and booked at the Lawrence County Detention Center on a $15,000 bond. Champ was placed with Rescue Dogs Rock NYC and began recovering, with his progress updated through a Facebook page called Justice for Champ. For her horrific treatment of the dog, James was sentenced to 90 days in jail. Number 6. Candice Nicole Jones and Edward Brannon Barry, both aged 32, pleaded guilty in a Texas court to a revenge killing in April of 2019. The victim, Texas woman Emily Hacker, had been found buried in a burned-out shallow grave about 10 days since her disappearance in January of 2017. Prior to her murder, she'd been stopped by the police on a traffic violation, and a search of her truck produced a loaded handgun. According to an affidavit, 34-year-old Hacker told the police that the weapon belonged to Jones, and the latter subsequently planned to murder her in revenge. She elicited Barry's help, as well as that of 3 other people who'd subsequently be indicted. Hacker's cause of death was listed as blunt force trauma. The suspects put her body in a zippered bag and moved it to Lyons, about 40 miles from her home in Rockdale, where they buried it and then burned the shallow grave's contents in an effort to destroy the evidence. As of subsequent information pertaining to the case, Jones and Barry were each sentenced to 50 years in prison, following a plea deal in which they waived their right to appeal. Their accomplices, Ashley Yvonne Wesson Zawadsky, John Wayne Stewart, and Kevin Cormier, pleaded guilty to lesser charges. The latter was given the most lenient sentence of probation for 10 years after admitting that he'd helped move Hacker's body. Number 5. Hannah Starr Issa. In late September of 2022, law enforcement in Cypress, California, received reports that a pedestrian had been struck by a vehicle near a local park. They arrived to find the body of 43-year-old Luis Anthony, a father of 5. Earlier that evening, a confrontation had occurred between him and 20-year-old Hannah Starr Issa, which the young woman had recorded on her cell phone. She accused him of trying to run over a cat in the street. They argued for some time before Issa got back inside her vehicle. She then made a 3-point turn and barreled towards Anthony, filming the entire incident in what the authorities would describe as her exhibiting a complete disregard for human life. The young woman hit Anthony with her car. He was thrown onto her windshield and flipped over her vehicle several times before landing on the street and dying on impact. Issa was taken into custody on murder charges, with her bond set at $1 million and her arraignment scheduled for October the 13th. Number 4. Abdul Abu Mahmoud. In the early hours of Good Friday 2017, a hitman kicked open the front door of a home in Glenfield in Sydney's southwest. He shot teenager Braden Dillon in the head as he was sleeping in his bed, and he later passed away. 3 months later, local authorities arrested Conrad Craig, a member of the Brothers for Life street gang, and charged him with murder, but he refused to reveal his motive. In January of 2019, while in detention at Lithgow Jail, 29-year-old Craig started cutting his face and arms with a pair of scissors in a bid to get the attention of a detective working on Dillon's case. He asked to be moved from his current prison and revealed not only that he'd been responsible for the killing, but also that it had been a form of gangland retribution. Craig told investigators that he'd been hired and paid $20,000 for the hit on Dillon by a man named Abdul Abu Mahmoud. The latter had picked him up from Cessnock prison when he was released on an unrelated charge and provided him with a weapon and ammunition. Dillon's older brother, Joshua, had been charged with fatally stabbing Abu Mahmoud's nephew, Adam, in a Panania street fight in 2016. He was eventually found not guilty on grounds of self-defense, but while he was in custody, Abu Mahmoud contracted Craig to attack his innocent younger brother as retribution. Craig described the fatal outcome of the revenge plot as a kneecapping gone wrong and was sentenced to at least 40 years in prison in the aftermath. Abu Mahmoud, who sported tattoos that read "Revenge is a dish best served cold" and "Eye for an eye" on his legs, was found guilty of murder in September of 2020 and faced a sentence of life in prison. Number 3. Andrew Hall and Cheyenne Blaylock. Oklahoma man Andrew Hall and his teenage girlfriend, Cheyenne Blaylock, were charged with murder in January of 2020 in an incident allegedly sparked by the former's desire for payback. On New Year's Day, the body of Kirsten Patterson was found just south of Locust Grove at the Spring Creek boat ramp on the Neosho River. She'd been reported missing and was a suspected runaway before law enforcement discovered that she'd been fatally shot in the head. Patterson was a schoolmate of Blaylock's at Choteau High School, at whom Hall was angry for allegedly giving him an STD. As per Blaylock's subsequent testimony, he'd instructed her to text the victim, inviting her to take a ride with him. Patterson met the couple, at which point either Blaylock or Hall ambushed and shot her in the head with a hunting rifle. It wasn't clear who'd pulled the trigger, as following their arrest on the same day as the body's discovery, the teen and her 30-year-old boyfriend pointed the finger at each other. They were both eventually found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. Today's topic was requested by Look Who's Watching. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Fabio De Lello. 33-year-old Italian woman Roberta Smargiassi was killed in a car crash in 2016 after a man had run a red light and crashed into her scooter with his Fiat. 22-year-old Italo De Lisa faced manslaughter charges in connection to the incident. In the aftermath, Smargiassi's husband, Fabio De Lello, fell into a deep depression and reportedly felt like he couldn't trust Italy's dysfunctional courts to prosecute De Lisa. He left a clue of what was to come on Facebook when he changed his cover photo to one showing Maximus Decimus Meridius, Russell Crowe's character in the Gladiator film. A former general in command of Roman legions, the character fell into slavery and became a gladiator while seeking vengeance for the killing of his wife and daughter. 34-year-old De Lello, a baker and semi-professional soccer player, tracked De Lisa down outside a cafe in Vasto on January the 1st of 2017. He brandished a 9mm handgun and fatally shot him 3 times as payback for running over his wife. De Lello then went to Smargiassi's grave and placed the weapon on it. As the police were called to the cemetery, they took the man into custody and charged him with murder. Prosecutors described the incident as a tragedy within a tragedy, while DeLalo's lawyer told a media outlet he never imagined he was planning a vendetta. He stated that his client had no experience in handling firearms, but did note that he was in a very fragile psychological state. For the brazen revenge killing, DeLalo was eventually sentenced to 30 years in prison. Number 1. Emma Pressler. On August the 6th of 2021, residents in the Houston suburb of Kingwood were alerted by the sound of an explosion. In the moments that followed, couple Carissa Lindros and Devin Graham ran out of their home, both engulfed in flames. A neighbor would later tell the police that 33-year-old Graham no longer had any clothes and his skin was peeling off. As he was screaming his lungs out, he suffered burns to 90% of his body and passed away a few days later. His girlfriend, 26-year-old Lindros, was left in critical condition with burns covering 70% of her body, but she ultimately survived. A white female was seen leaving the scene of the fire in a 4-door sedan, and she'd later be identified as 19-year-old Emma Pressler. Before dying, Graham revealed that she'd broken into their home and set both him and Lindros ablaze using gasoline. Lindros couldn't speak on account of her severe injuries, but when the police talked to her on August the 16th, she confirmed that Pressler had been the culprit. She motioned a lighter when asked how she'd set them on fire. There was evidence that the two women knew each other, and gang-related payback was suspected as the root cause of Pressler's actions, although the details weren't disclosed. The teenager had made headlines the year prior when she was linked to the murder of 20-year-old Sierra Rod, a cerebral palsy sufferer from Harris County. She was killed inside her home, which was struck by a flurry of bullets in a drive-by shooting. The target had actually been Rod's teenage brother, who'd reportedly been feuding with a Houston area gang known as 10K. The shooters took off in several vehicles, including a red pickup truck belonging to Austin McCalla, Pressler's then-boyfriend. The teen was found driving the vehicle not long after the shooting, and the police took her into custody. McCalla and 3 others were charged with Rod's murder, but Pressler was released as prosecutors failed to convince a judge there was probable cause for her to be charged. Thanks for watching. For a month, would you rather be relentlessly stalked by your ex or go through a maze whenever you had to use the bathroom? Let us know in the comments section below.